In this week's episode, I go onto the street and talk politics. Hi, welcome to episode 34 of Business Greenhouse TV. Told you I was going to get out and about, and we're here. It's going to be a bit busy today because we've got a road here and we've got a few signs and stuff like that. But as you guys know, for those of you that are in Australia watching this, we're coming up to a very crucial election. And so here we are. It's Tuesday afternoon, and I wanted to get this in because, literally, I'm going to get this show out by Wednesday. Okay, so the production team have got a big job on their hands. I want to get it out Wednesday to give you plenty of time between then and Saturday's election. And really, my purpose of doing this, I don't want to tell you who to vote for. I don't even really want to shape your vote. I really just want to talk about business and politics and how those two work together and what does it all mean. And then I want to pull on some of the stuff that I'm seeing that I do and don't like from the parties and really just try and give you, some more information. I don't have it all. Politics frustrates me to a large degree. But I've just found some stuff in terms of business that I just want to answer, and a bunch of you guys have sent in questions that are political, so we'll make sure that we answer that. But before I get into a question, I'm pretty excited about this groundswell that's taking place in politics around the world. Actually, have you noticed that anywhere where there's two major parties, there's a real rise up of minor parties all over the world, and I think this is a really good thing. I think the two major parties in Australia have had it too good for too long, and they're on dangerous ground. But literally everywhere around the world, minor parties are starting to get a foothold. I mean, even the likes of America, where Donald Trump's not a minor party, but he's not your normal candidate for the party, and people are going, hang on a minute, he's different. I like the fact he's different. Let's go and vote for him, and building a massive groundswell. And we're seeing the same in Australia. So literally, I want to talk to you about the power of minor parties, and I'm really liking this groundswell. In fact, the two major parties are so scared about the minor parties that 6 or 7 weeks ago, they passed some legislation to make it even harder for minor parties to get any kind of foothold, because they could see there's a tide turning where people are going, hang on a minute, Labor or Liberal, we are sick of that, it doesn't work. What else is there? And so there is this tide, and I think that's a good thing, because we've got to give these two a major run for their money. Let's get into our first question. Paul, what's our first question today?
Evren Burbage asks, with almost 1 in 4 Australians being employed in small to medium business, which of the major parties is focused on this sector, presenting sound and achievable policies focused on improving the sector's performance?
All right, Evren, let me give you a shout out. Sports Power, a sports shop in Mandurah, West Australia, doing great things. So, 1 in 4 Australians are employed by small to medium business. And if you include the business people and the people that are employed, the number is huge. And that's why I wanted to talk about this one. The major parties, so we got, we've got Liberal and we've got Labor. In my opinion, Labor offer very little in terms of the small to medium business community in Australia. And ultimately that's because they're a big business organisation. So a big business, multinational type party can't really do, the two can't coexist, okay? Because they think big business, multinational, union fees, that's their angle. So that's why Labor offer very little to the small business world, okay? And the few policies that they do have, they've basically stolen from other parties and just gone with them, because the truth is they offer very little. Liberals do actually have some policies that they're putting up as part of their platform. The main one is that for incorporated businesses, they want to get the tax rate down to 27.5%. So from 30 down to 27.5. I think that is a really, really, really good initiative, because that's quite a substantial saving. If you looked at, the minute you're making a profit, you get to save nearly 10% of your tax bill that you get to keep to reinvest. Okay, so I think that's a good policy. They also want to do big tax discounts for unincorporated, so small, the sole trader type businesses and so forth. They're also talking about cutting red tape, but they've been talking about that as long as I've been alive, and I don't see much with any of that. So Labor, nothing. Liberal, offering a $20,000 tax deduction in your first year. I don't know that that's a make or break, But out of those two, I'd certainly be going with a Liberal vote because at least they're giving some attention to it. But there are some other really good initiatives outside of that, right? So with the small minor parties, and I'm not across them all, I'm not a hunter and fisher, so I have no idea about them. I really have only looked at the Christian ones like the Christian Democrats, Family First, Rise Up Australia. I don't know that they would all call themselves a Christian party, but they definitely lead off with valuing people and so forth. And so, okay, look at that, and I go, you know, I was looking up some of these and what they're offering, and I noticed that Family First's, I think they've got the best policy in terms of what they're trying to put forward. They want to put forward a 20-20-20 tax plan, which is for the first $20,000 of your income is tax-free. So that's pretty similar to what's already out there. A corporate tax rate of 20%. Think about that. It's currently 30 and it'll go to 20. That difference is a huge amount of money. Most businesses are not just going to pocket that and go on holiday. They're going to find a way to reinvest it, employ staff, buy some new equipment, whatever, and it flows back into the economy. And then a 20% personal tax rate capped, not going up, not penalizing you for doing better. So the current system penalizes success. So then nobody wants to do that. You know, Family First also want to get rid of payroll tax to some degree. They also want to get rid of penalty rates on weekends, and they want people that can't get a job to be able to go and negotiate their own wages so they can at least get work instead of, you know, because most people in the restaurant world, they can't employ because the penalty rates on weekends are so big. They want to do away with all of that, okay? So they're the only party I've got that I think are thinking strategically. See, I'm personally not worried about the jobs and growth. Like, how do you do, like, it's a nice phrase, but you've actually got to offer up a policy that allows people to have some money to reinvest in the economy to create jobs and growth. Promising that I might be able to get your tax down 1.5% doesn't quite get there, okay? So Family First to me are the only ones that have proactively got a strategy. And I'm sure they've done their numbers to know there's a short-term hit. There is a short-term hit to go through to go from 30% to 20% tax. Like, that's going to hurt. But the long-term prosperity of our country will be far better off because there'll be all this extra money flowing around building the economy, and it means that it incentivizes building a bigger business. See, at the moment, there's no incentive, okay? A lower tax incentivizes people to have more money and reinvest it back in their business to build a bigger business, which now means the government get more tax at 20% than they would have done at 30% on a smaller business. So all of that to say, like, you know, the two major parties I don't think are offering much. You know, it's between Tweedledum and Tweedledee, really. And some of the minor parties are doing a great job. Paul, what's question number 2?
Scott Redmond asks, as it becomes clearer that the major parties have little to offer, do you recommend voting for the minor parties as a protest? And if so, which parties?
Scott Redmond, cleaning excellence out of New South Wales. So I just kind of covered a little bit of that in the last question, but I want to kind of go on a different tangent here. The short answer for me is yes. Let me tell you why I think, like, you know, it's different at a federal. Like, when you're voting for somebody in the Senate, you can put a minor party as number 1 and they get the vote, okay? So essentially you're not splitting the vote in the Senate. And so I personally think that we do need to start thinking a bit more strategic and a bit more long-term, because the consensus is, like, if I start to vote minor party, I divide the vote on a major party, therefore Labor gets in, which basically means Greens get in, you know, like, which is the worst thing for the country, right? So I get that the problem with thinking that way is it's never going to get any better. So if a minor party can get 4% of the vote, it starts to get federal funding. And so, and some of the parties in some of the seats are actually really close to getting a 4% margin, which now means that the federal government are going to give them money to keep their campaigns alive. And they're not small amounts of money, much bigger amounts of money than they've probably been using through volunteers. So yes, I do think it's time. I think we have to start to think outside the box. And if it means that we have a really rough 4 to 8 years, we've got to take a strategic view of the kind of country we want into the future, not the kind of country we want on Monday morning after the election. So I do think strategically we do need to think. Now, not everyone's going to agree with me, but that's fine. It's my video. So you can just turn it off if you don't agree. But I think we've got to start thinking into the future. Stop thinking about now. Start to build the Australia that we want to see. And to do that, I think we've got to start to give these minor parties some legs, because if we don't, they're never going to get in, okay? So do you do it at a protest, which is your question? Maybe. I just want to do it because it's smart. I want to do it because it's strategic. And the two major parties have proven for a long period of time that they don't have the legs to steward this country. And it's our job as believers to change culture. Voting in the same two parties like this is not changing culture. It's replicating the same one, okay? And really, if you look at it, like you used to have a conservative vote in the Liberal Party. It used to be quite a conservative vote. That's gone now, okay? It's like left and really left now. And so some of these minor parties are offering you the conservative vote to keep Australia on a moral compass, because the two major parties are sliding off that moral compass. And if you want to be strategic, like voting for, it's bad or badderer is your two options with those two. It might be more strategic to start to think, 8 to 12 years down the line, giving these minor parties, the Christian Democrats, Fred Nile, Family First, Rise Up Australia. It might be more strategic to start to give these guys some legs, to give them a voice, get them a seat on the Senate so they can start to bring sound values to government. Great question, Scott.
We have a private question. I am really scared about what is going on in Australia right now, and I've heard it said that this election is going to be the turning point for our future. What's your opinion?
Yeah, solid question. A lot of people came to me with this, and there's a whole bunch of fear going on, and I get it. Like we really are on a bit of a knife edge morally within this election because of what I said before. I think it's you either vote bad or badderer if you're voting for the major parties. Here's my take. As entrepreneurs, we're the only wealth creators on the planet. Like we're the only ones that create wealth. Government don't create any. They only distribute what we create. I think that's important to understand, because we need to start to use that position as a position of influence. Like, as the only wealth creators, I personally think that we need, and as Christians, we have a duty to steward what we've got, both the resources we get and the planet that we live on. I think it's our job to start to manage better the way that we hand our finances over. Like, we should get to choose the government that we give our money to, who's going to best look after the social needs of society. See, when I go right back in my Bible, I go back to Solomon, those guys were godly men who used the wealth to look after the issues of society, okay? And the modern day version of that is, women part of domestic violence, homeless, at-risk youth. Like, there's so many of them, right? It should be the Christian's job, I think, to take back these things, okay? And so I guess what I'm saying is, like, we need to use our position of influence as the wealth creators and start to lobby these governments to say, no, you're not having that program. You're not having safe schools, which was a whole bunch of questions I got. What about this safe schools program? Which is absolutely vile, because it teaches kids in primary school that they can choose their gender. I mean, like, what a disgusting program, and yet it's being pushed and pushed and pushed. We as the Christians need to unite, and some of you know that me and some guys are working on this process to be able to create a lobby group of Christian entrepreneurs, or entrepreneurs actually, not just Christian, who are going to stand toe-to-toe with our politicians and say, you're not having that. And if you vote for that, these guys are going to vote against you. Like, we're in that process, but we're not going to make it. We're not going to make it by Saturday's vote. we need a bit longer, sadly. We need to build a bit more momentum. We are 1-2 years away from being able to stand toe-to-toe with our politicians and say, you're not having that. And if you do, all these guys are going to vote against you. So that's in motion now, but it's a little way off. I guess that's what I mean. Like, we need to take our position as Christian entrepreneurs and start to go, no, you're not having that policy. That's not the best thing for society. That's not looking after anybody. And either they do a better job, or we start to assume those responsibilities back and be the Christian in the marketplace, putting legs on our faith and actually looking after people. That's essentially what I think we need to be doing. And it's a big job and it's a big call, and it's not going to happen in 5 minutes. But I took this question because I want you to start to think bigger about the level of influence that we should have. We create the finance. We should start to have a better say on where it's going. And we can do that when we actually come together with one voice irrespective of denomination, one voice saying you're not going to have any of that stuff and we're going to vote against you if you do, and start to get these bad governments out. You know, I personally think that we need to stop thinking about us. We need to stop thinking about like which party gives me the best outcome. Stuff me. We've got to start to think about my kids and my kids' kids' generation. We've got to stop thinking economic decisions and start thinking moral decisions. Because if we just chase the money, the prosperity of the country, but let everything else slide, then my kids and their kids are going to have a horrific time. Okay? So stop worrying, stop looking at where you might get an extra little kickback, and where this one's going to look after my little bit of superannuation better, and this one I get a tax break. My own personal opinion is we've got to stop thinking now, and we've got to start thinking into the future. What is the future of our children's children going to look like? And we need to start to be strategic about how we vote and how we think for that. Because the truth is, if you get to the end of your life and you've got an extra $100,000 because you picked your party, but after that, like, it's moral decline, that's not stewardship. That's selfishness. And I guess I wanted to finish on a bit of a rant because, you know, Christians, we need influence. There is a world around us that want better government. We are the only group of people on the planet that have the resources and the numbers to get what we want in a heartbeat. And it's going to be the entrepreneurs who have the tenacity to get things done, to produce the wealth, to hold them account, that's going to start to shape the policies of this country. And it's you, and it's me, and it has to start now. Yes, this may not make a big decision by Saturday, by this election. Hopefully it gets a little bit of a groundswell, but I'm thinking next one and the next one beyond there. We've got to start to hold these guys to account, and it is us, the Christian entrepreneurs, who are going to make the largest impact. Hope this was valuable for you. I certainly enjoyed getting out. Hope the cars weren't too much of a distraction, and I'll see you next week back in the office. Bye for now. Hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this show, why don't you subscribe by hitting the subscribe button, and then you'll get all the alerts of the future shows.